Okay, let's get into this. Because honestly, when I heard Suzuki was reviving the TL1000S, my first thought wasn't about horsepower figures or price tags. It was about a guy, a journalist no less, who nearly had his entire career ended by this very motorcycle, back in the day when flannel was still kind of cool and the internet made that dial-up screech. So picture this. It's the late 90s. This writer, he throws a leg over the original TL, hits a damp patch mid-corner, opens the throttle, and suddenly he's not riding a bike anymore, he's a passenger in a high-speed wrestling match with the handlebars. That's where the legend of the tank slapper was born, basically cemented into biker lore forever. And now, in 2026, Suzuki looks at that whole messy history and says, yeah, let's do that again. But better. On purpose, with their eyes wide open. So what's the verdict here? Is this the most brilliant, confident comeback in motorcycling history? Or is it just the most stubborn thing a manufacturer has done in years? Seriously, stick with me for the next few minutes because by the time we wrap this up, I think you'll have your own pretty strong opinion. Alright, let's talk about the machine itself, the 2026 Suzuki TL1000S. If that badge doesn't ring any bells for you, don't sweat it. It will, I promise. What you need to grasp right off the bat is that Suzuki isn't just slapping a retro sticker on some old parts bin special. They've resurrected one of their most notorious monikers, plopped it into showrooms with a very real price tag, and done it all with a swagger that feels, I don't know, maybe a little insane, but in a way that makes you kind of love it. Now, let's get down to brass tacks, the money, because for a lot of folks, that's the first thing they're looking at, right? Suzuki's going after the competition hard with a price of $9,999. Just let that number marinate for a second. It'll hit different once we dig into the tech lurking beneath that bodywork. Under the tank, you've got a liquid-cooled 90-degree V-twin, 1,040 cc's of pure, unadulterated grunt. They're claiming 148 horsepower at 10,200 RPM and 81 pound-feet of torque peaking at 7,800 RPM. But here's the kicker. The part that actually got me a little excited. This isn't some hand-me-down motor from a cruiser or an adventure bike. Suzuki designed this engine specifically for the TL. They wanted to recapture the spirit, the very soul of the original's power plant, but they went in and fixed the gremlins that made the first one such a handful. You know, the ones that gave it that colorful reputation. We'll get to all that fun stuff in a minute. Patience, young Padawan. Chassis-wise, they've gone with a twin-spar aluminum frame, which, if you know your TL history, is a pretty significant departure from the trellis design of yore. And it's not just for show. That's Suzuki saying, we heard you, we know the old one flexed like a wet noodle when things got fast, and we're not having that anymore. Up front, there's a fully adjustable Showa big piston fork. Out back, they junked that wild, controversial rotary damper from the original, the one that was basically the primary source of all those tank slapper stories, and swapped it for a conventional, fully adjustable monoshock with a remote reservoir. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how seriously they're taking this reboot, nothing will. You've got solid stopping power via dual 320mm discs up front, squeezed by radial mount 4-piston calipers and a 240mm disc in the rear. It's all linked to a cornering ABS system that's smart enough to know how much you're leaning. Lightweight cast aluminum wheels shod with a 120-section front and a chunky 190-section rear rubber give it that aggressive sport bike stance without you feeling like you're trying to wrestle a MotoGP bike in a parking lot. But here's where my inner commuter gets a little warm and fuzzy. Suzuki actually made this thing livable. The seats at a manageable 31.5 inches, the bars have a slight rise, and the pegs are positioned for a sports touring vibe rather than a full-on race rep crouch. Translation, you could literally ride this to work on a Tuesday without needing a chiropractor by lunchtime. My wrists, for one, are grateful. Electronics? Yeah, it's got the full menu. A 5-inch color TFT display, 3 ride modes, traction control you can switch on or off, a bi-directional quick shifter for clutchless up and down shifts, and Suzuki's newest intelligent ride system that manages the throttle response. They even integrated a steering damper into the frame from the get-go. Not an afterthought, not a bolt-on fix, engineered in. Seems like a small detail. Trust me, it's not. It's the loudest statement they could make. With a 4.5-gallon tank and a claimed curb weight of 431 pounds, it's right in the hunt with its rivals. Top speed? North of 155 miles per hour, and Suzuki's own tests show a 0 to 60 time of about 3.1 seconds. So yeah, performance-wise, it's right there with bikes costing thousands more. Paint options? You've got a stunning Pearl Vigor Blue with white stripes, a sinister glass sparkle black with red graphics, and a candy daring red that's a straight-up nostalgic nod to Suzuki's sport bike heritage. It's a looker, I'll give it that. So, why, oh why, is Suzuki doing this now, in 2026? The truth is, the V-twin sport bike market has been heating up. Riders don't just want a buzzsaw of an inline 4 anymore. They want character. They want a bike with a heartbeat, something that pulls different out of corners and sounds like it has a soul. And other brands have been eating Suzuki's lunch in this space for years with their naked and semi-faired V-twins. Suzuki needed an answer, and apparently this is it. Here's a question for you, and I genuinely want to know what you think. Hit me up in the comments. If a manufacturer resurrects a model with a notorious past, but fixes every single issue that made it notorious, would you actually buy one? Or is that name just too tainted, forever stained by those old YouTube comments and forum horror stories? Let me know, because where we're heading next is going to make that question a whole lot more, relevant. See, Suzuki's aiming this bike straight at the current middleweight and big-bore European V-twins, and on paper, the TL is undercutting several of them while meeting or beating them on power. That price point is going to make some serious waves in dealerships, I'm telling you. Alright, let's circle back to that infamous reputation. The original TL1000S, launched in the late 90s, was Suzuki's attempt to fight the Ducati 196s and other V-twins dominating world superbike. It had that magnificent, punchy 996cc V-twin. On paper, it was a killer, but they shipped it with that wild rotary rear damper. Innovative in theory, terrifying in practice. It couldn't keep the chassis stable under hard acceleration, and it earned the bike a nickname that's still whispered in reverence and fear at bike nights everywhere. Suzuki tried to fix it with retrofitted steering dampers, and over time, the engine itself, which was a gem, found its way into other models. But the TL1000S itself was killed off, and the nameplate has been collecting dust for over 20 years. And that brings me to the big reveal. And I'm going to be straight with you here. Everything we've just talked about, the chassis, the engine, the suspension, the $9,999 price tag, the color choices, it's all based on Suzuki's current real engineering philosophy. It's what a modern TL would be. But it's not real. There is no 2026 TL1000S in dealerships right now. This whole thing, start to finish, is a concept, a deep dive what-if scenario built to imagine exactly how Suzuki would handle resurrecting their most controversial bike if they ever pulled the trigger. And honestly, that's what makes this whole exercise kind of fascinating. Looking at how a manufacturer would solve exactly the problems that sank a bike the first time around shows you how far engineering has come. And it makes you wonder, are some reputations forever, or do they deserve a second look? So, I'm going to flip that question right back at you. Knowing everything you know now, if Suzuki did build this tomorrow, would the TL1000S finally mean something different, or is that baggage just too damn heavy to ever get rid of? If you enjoyed this little thought experiment, there's another video sitting right there on your screen that I think you're gonna love. It's about a bike with an even wilder backstory than this one. Tap it, get comfy, and I'll catch you on the other side.